right. Hello, Reid. How you doing?
Good. Sorry to only be there virtually, but it's the challenges of travel schedule, but you know, super important set of topics. So happy to beam in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This is our first Reid on Reid interview today, so very excited. I'm just curious. So when you were back at your symbolic systems and philosophy days, at Stanford, did you ever think that you'd be running a biotech company one day?
Never. It'd probably be more likely I'd be running a McDonald's. So, and actually Siddhartha Mukherjee is running it, but co-founding and learning things about cutting edge drug discovery and kind of drug creation has been an amazing part of the journey. Part of what I love about, kind of the path that I've been on.
Yeah, I mean, you've gone sort of from the consumer AI, right, with Inflection, and Pi was the chatbot there. Now to sort of applying this to finding drugs, right? And there are a lot of these startups. We've been talking about this for really for a few years now. It's been a big topic, and there's lots of your colleagues are jumping into this business as well. Is there something different that Manas is doing? Like, is there a secret sauce there?
Well, I think part of it's kind of the approach. So part of the reason why Sid and I got into this is we saw a number of people who are doing it kind of call it only like AI, only in silicon. And the most extreme version is we're going to make an AI drug pharma researcher. But there's also simulation, a bunch of other things. And we thought, look, it's actually far too early for any of that. Biology is too complex. There's a bunch of different challenges with that. On the other hand, a bunch of the pharma folks are like, hey, we're gonna keep our current process exactly as it is, and then we're going to fit in AI where we can fit it in. It might be, kind of a little bit better search space. It might be, kind of filing information for INDs and other kinds of things. But we're not going to really recognize what the fundamental change happens vis-a-vis, like, what does this new technology enable in, finding, kind of interesting targets, in doing binding analysis, in all that, and then still get that in various ways tied through biological ground truth. And so, part of what Sid and I did, and part of how we got there is he literally, because he's brought successful, T cell therapies to FDA approval, and so he said, we micro slice the entire kind of I have an idea to I've shipped a drug thing, and we walked through it where he gave me kind of what is the ultimate masterclass in here's how this works today, and with the hospital system and data and all the rest. And I said, okay, here's where AI can work today. Here's where AI can work tomorrow. Here's what I know from kind of all of the major AI efforts. And obviously people tend to think chatbots, but there's a lot going on. Chatbots, what you're using on your phone, that's awesome. But there's a lot going on with this AI stuff. And think about it almost as like Go. There's more moves in Go than there are atoms in the universe. Kind of complexity. What's the way that you're having these things generate those kind of predictive algorithms to say this might be like it's supposed to like, hey, here's what we're trying to solve in this particular cancer. Here are 30 different ways that the bindings might work. Now let's look at them.
So, thinking of AI down the road and other technologies down the road, I mean, you're one of the biggest, thinkers on the future in the Valley. And I sort of wonder if you are looking ahead to things like, maybe even quantum computing, right? I mean, people talk about using quantum computers to essentially create a virtual cell, right? Which may not even be possible with classical computing. What do you think about that? Are you looking ahead?
Well, I meet with every credible quantum program, and I look at where quantum is. Now, I think quantum's still a little early. Like, usually it's kind of a bit of the, hey, it's going to be here in 2 to 3 years, and I think it's not quite here. So we're not factoring, like, we have a place for quantum and how we're thinking about this at Manus and others, and how I'm thinking about it, but we haven't yet at Greylock done an investment in quantum. I went through at Microsoft. Satya Nadella asked me to be the board member who's on top of the quantum program there, which also means looking at all other major things that are happening. So I pay a lot of attention to it, and it's obviously super exciting. But getting to a number of scale, kind of what are known as logical qubits, is still like, it's not like, oh yeah, it's proven. right? There's still some real science and some real work to do it. Now, I think drug molecules are exactly the first kind of thing. Everyone tends to talk about as RSA and security and all that. That's 2,000 logical qubits, whereas a drug molecule could be 100 to 200. And so that's actually, in fact, super interesting.
Yeah, and I think there's also just one of the challenges here is you can find a bunch of candidates right at the top of the funnel. You still have to go and test those in the lab, and I know there's robotic labs, a lot of advances there. And then you have to do the trials. And I don't know if the question I think is it a step change difference in terms of when you're predicting a molecule interaction at the top of the funnel? Is a step change difference in how effective it ends up being in those clinical trials? I think some of them have gotten to the first phase at this point.
Well, I think that's one of the things we'll hypothesize, but part of it is we didn't just do the top of the funnel. We actually also looked at a set of different things alongside where AI could make a difference if you were looking at it. Now, you still need biological ground truth because the system's complex enough, and you need to be doing that, and you need to have trials. Now, obviously, it'd be awesome if, in general, kind of regulatory thing, we figure out how to do the trials to be as effective as possible within the risk analysis, but Monas is not dependent upon that. Monas is by bringing computation in at multiple levels, and it's not just kind of like it's easy to go kind of the AI go prediction. There is that, but there's a set of other things that are actually also going into this, and that's part of the start designing it from the ground up on here's the current technologies, here's where the technologies, because I have a certain line of sight to what's coming. Here's what the line of sight is, and then like with quantum, here's what's maybe, right? Okay, let's redesign the process given that.
Yeah. Also, just sort of, I want to tap into your knowledge of AI in general right now. So, you as I said, you had inflection. It seems like ChatGPT is kind of running away with the consumer market. Do you see it that way? Is there any? I mean, you're the expert on blitzscaling and network effects. LinkedIn and Facebook. Do you think they're going to run away with it, or is there still room for competition?
I think there's room for competition, although obviously I'm a massive, kind of OpenAI believer and endorser. But part of it is the weirdness on the internet tends to be that if your product starts at 5 to 10% better and stays that way, then you get a massive disproportionate thing because, well, it's just easy to go use that. I started using it, I keep using it, it's easy to do. And that's what actually makes by the way, I think OpenAI and the chain of thought, if people in the audience haven't used deep research, haven't done the chain of thought, do so within the next 24 hours. I try to use deep research every day. Now, it doesn't mean like frequently what people will say is like, well, I used it and look, this part of it was wrong. Yeah, but like the quickness of like, here is a report that an analyst would have given you in 4 days with a higher error bar. The analyst would have not made some mistakes trying to please you, but it gives it to you in 10 minutes, right? And then if you go, well, I'm particularly interested in this, I'm going to now use research functions to see if this particular thing is right. Like that is actually, in fact, kind of game changing. And I think OpenAI continues to like trailblaze in, like deep research, chain of thought, et cetera. And even though DeepSeek said, hey, we're going to do chain of thought too, the reason why OpenAI is still not kind of revealing its chain of thought threads is it thinks it still has some unique things where its chain of thought is better than the market in terms of offering. So I think it's OpenAI is like vigorous and going, but hey, there's a lot of opportunities there.
The other question with OpenAI is there is this lawsuit filed by Elon Musk. You might have heard of him, and he wants to prevent them from becoming a for-profit. Right? They started as a nonprofit, as you know. You were a co-founder. What do you think about that? Do you think that would be a huge mistake to prevent them from doing that, or is it fair to say they should stick to to what they said they were going to do when they started?
Look, I mean, Elon, signs the pause letter while he's accelerating his own efforts, says you shouldn't become a for-profit. Well, I'm doing XAI as a for-profit, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like complete lack of credibility. Now, on the OpenAI side, they are still going for their mission of how does AI benefit humanity? And a public benefit corp is a good way to do that. The reason they've been going down this path is how do we get the capital? How do we get the compute? to be the primary force on factoring in social mission to what we're doing. And public benefit corps, as you know, as probably most of the people in the room know, allow a board of directors to then make decisions for the mission against profit, against revenue, et cetera, to make that happening. And so that's the reason why they're staying on the mission and doing it. So I would say, yes, they should be allowed to do that. And it is actually, in fact, them pursuing their mission, a mission that has a very high elevated social good. And so, unequivocally very positive.
Yeah, and that social good is really AI safety. We have a new administration. Another of your former colleagues, David Sachs, is working on this AI action plan. I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think he has AI safety in mind, and is he the right person to bring this plan to the public?
Well, David and I worked at PayPal together. He's very smart. Now, what noises have been made is that the most important thing in AI is woke AI, which I think is foolish, right? The most important things are a set of how does this help American industries? What do we do? What happens in job transformation? What does this mean for geopolitical power balance? The notion of kind of a woke AI thing being the thing makes a very nice political headline, but actually may be detrimental to American success and American industry and American trade, American jobs. And so it's no, focus on the things that matter. Now, they may get there. I hope they do. That's, part of my hope in the current administration is they'll do better things on energy regulation and policy. They'll do better things on, hey, let's make sure we're innovating into the future. Now, that being said, I thought the Biden EO was very good. I hope they just relabel it and go, hey, this is now the Trump EO, for AI, et cetera. That would be fine. What matters is the work and what happens for our industries and our citizens and the world generally, not labels.
So what are the most important sort of AI safety, policies that you think should be included?
Well, part of the thing that I thought was really good about the Biden executive order was to say, let's be monitoring, let's be engaging, have a safety plan so we can come talk to you about it. Tell us about what kinds of safety things you're doing. Maybe, for example, in this conference, what are you doing about the possibility, preventing bioterrorism in the use of what you're doing? And we would like to see that safety plan. And every major developer, when we knock at the door, you shouldn't go, oh, really? We're supposed to be doing something? It's no, here's what we did. Here's what we're doing. Here's what current good practice is. These are the people we're in dialogue with about it. And I think that is a very good approach generally to be doing. And then it was magic numbers in terms of scale of compute but it's hey, what is a major effort? It's a scale of compute. It's a training set on certain kinds of data. It's other kinds of things, and that will be evolving. But to be saying, hey, if you're a major developer, you must be considering kind of what your possible downsides are that are big, and you're doing specific work to try to prevent that.
Yeah, and I know you're an AI optimist, so I don't want people to get the wrong idea that you're talking about the sort of doomer scenario, right? But what is it exactly? So I think there are real security concerns. This technology is more powerful, more agentic. What are the things that you think could just actually happen that would be that we should try to prevent?
Well, so the extreme risks I think are bioterrorism, terrorist. Rogue state, et cetera, cybercrime, where cybercrime could be massively economic, but attacking financial system, critical infrastructure, et cetera. So I think that's another one. And then there is the question around, is kind of the democratic versus autocratic states. Autocratic states, I think, will implement much more ferociously, and we must not slow down our implementation and industrial transformation. Part of the reason why I call the AI revolution the cognitive industrial revolution is if you look back in history, those states that embraced the industrial revolution early, had centuries of essentially economic power, and those that didn't, fell well behind. I think that's the similar kind of risk, which is precisely the reason why it's what we're doing with what it means industrially matters a lot more than kind of kind of going, what really matters is, did it make a woke statement or not? It's whatever. Right?
Well, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much. That went by too fast, and I hope we get to talk again soon.
Great. Reid, always great to see you.
You too.